Sugar is something most of us use every single day without ever thinking about what it really is. We add it to coffee, tea, desserts, and baking, and it always feels like the simplest ingredient in the kitchen. When you look at sugar with the naked eye, there is nothing that suggests complexity. It looks clean, uniform, and completely predictable. Just a collection of tiny white grains sitting in a bowl. Right now, I'm taking a small amount of sugar and placing it onto the microscope slide. At this stage, it still looks exactly the same as it always does, and nothing about it seems unusual. Sugar is not soft or smooth like it might seem in everyday use. It is actually made of rigid, well-defined crystalline structures that formed through a very ordered chemical process. As I continue preparing the sample and get ready to increase the magnification, the familiar idea of sugar begins to fade. What once felt ordinary starts to feel more precise, structured, and surprisingly strict in its form. This is where sugar stops being just an ingredient and starts becoming something much more interesting. At 80 times magnification, the sugar sample still looks deceptively simple at first glance, but it quickly starts to lose its familiar kitchen identity. Large angular crystals dominate the field of view, each one sharply outlined against the bright background. Their shapes feel geometric and intentional, with flat faces and straight edges that reflect light unevenly. Some crystals sit isolated, while others cluster together, forming small groups that touch at sharp corners. Tiny dark specks and faint surface marks appear across the crystals, showing that even refined sugar is not perfectly clean or uniform. The edges are crisp and rigid with no softness or flexibility at all. Unlike fruits or sauces, there is no sign of moisture or flowing structure here. Everything feels solid, dry, and brittle. At this level, sugar already looks more like a mineral than food. It feels cold, precise, and almost mechanical in nature. This first magnification reveals sugar as a substance built entirely around order and rigidity. At 200 times magnification, the internal complexity of sugar crystals becomes much more noticeable. The flat surfaces that looked smooth before now reveal fine textures and microscopic imperfections. Tiny pits, scratches, and irregular marks scatter across the crystal faces. Some areas reflect light strongly, while others appear dull and cloudy. Cracks and fractures begin to show along the edges, suggesting points where the crystal could easily break. Small fragments sit near larger crystals, likely broken off during handling or preparation. The contrast between perfectly straight edges and damaged surfaces creates a striking visual tension. Nothing here looks organic or soft. The structure feels engineered and fragile at the same time. At this scale, sugar starts to resemble shattered glass more than an ingredient. It becomes clear why sugar dissolves so easily despite looking so solid. The microscopic weaknesses are already built into its structure. At 800 times magnification, sugar fully transforms into a crystalline landscape. Individual crystal faces fill the frame, revealing complex internal patterns and layered textures. The once flat surfaces now appear uneven and granular. Tiny internal boundaries and stress lines run through the crystal like frozen faults. Some regions look compact and tightly bonded, while others appear porous and unstable. Light bends and scatters across the crystal in unpredictable ways, creating bright highlights and deep shadows. Fragments and micro cracks are everywhere, making the structure feel brittle and tense. At this level, sugar no longer feels simple or pure. It looks like a material constantly on the edge of collapse. Every crystal seems ready to shatter or dissolve at the slightest disturbance. This magnification explains how something that looks hard can disappear so quickly in water. Sugar reveals itself as a delicate balance between order and weakness. Looking this closely changes how familiar sugar feels. What once seemed smooth and harmless turns into a sharp, fragile crystal world hidden in plain sight. If you want to keep exploring what everyday foods really look like beneath the surface, follow the channel and check out the next video. There's a lot more hiding where this came from.